You're watching Newsfeed at the AM edition. Thank you for staying with us. If you've just joined us, it's a very good morning. The Miss Universe beauty pageant and its contestants are coming under fire on social media. This was after contestants were pictured wearing traditional Palestinian dresses and stuffing vine leaves, claiming they were experiencing Israeli culture. The women were taking part in a Visit Israel campaign. Pageant organisers have come under fire for choosing to hold this year's competition in Israel. Several contestants withdrew for this reason. Miss South Africa, Lalela Mswane, is participating despite pressure at home to pull out. To discuss the apparent appropriation of the Palestinian culture, we are joined by Noor Ahmed, who is with the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. Noor, very good morning. Talk to us about this controversy that we're seeing on social media.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your show, Hugo, and giving me the opportunity to talk about the Miss Universe pageant that is currently happening in Israel. When it comes to Miss Universe, when we called for our boycott, we did so knowing that the pageant will be used as a normalization campaign, and that is exactly what we have seen since the contestants have gotten to Israel. There's been a steady stream of content with the contestants walking around Eilat, a city, it should be mentioned, which is actually formed on the remains of a Palestinian village called Rashrash, whose inhabitants were displaced, and the area was taken over by settlers to form the city of Eilat in 1951. So just the city in which this competition is going to be happening in is so significant because of its history of displacement and its history of ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And then we see the participants of the Miss Universe pageant now engaging in more of that ethnic cleansing by wearing traditional Palestinian clothes and taking part in Palestinian culture, but just not mentioning Palestine at all and tagging Visit Israel and purely just glossing over the existence of the Palestinian people. This is the kind of thing that we anticipated would happen. It's become a mass normalization campaign where Israel is displayed as this great holiday destination that people should go to by these pageant contestants, and they're masking the reality of what is going on there. It kind of also dispels the opinion that some people had that Lalela would go there and she would make an impact for Palestine with her attendance. But what we've seen is actually the exact opposite. We saw a pro-Israel Twitter account that actually posted pictures of the deputy mayor of Jerusalem and Lalela hugging, and together they were together, and the caption was that the deputy mayor of Jerusalem thanked Lalela for speaking the truth and showing courage in the face of continued Israel hate, and that
Sorry,
just makes
Noor,
you wonder.
if you'll allow me to pose a question there. Before
Sure.
Lalela went, she obviously encountered a lot of criticism, a lot of angst in her participation in this event. Surely if there had been some engagement, for instance, by organizations such as yourselves, to say you are in this world platform where the entire globe is going to be watching you, here is our mandate, or here is an opportunity for you to push the Palestinian cause, would that not have been more receptive, rather than get into a tussle with her before she leaves and then still expect her to speak pro-Palestine, if you will?
Yeah, well, it's not that it was from a lack of trying. We, as an organization, had tried to reach out to Lalela through social media, but it's gotten to a point where we were just blocked by her. And a lot of people who are part of the organization or who are pro-Palestine, who were asking for her to engage, were blocked by her. So it's not that our organization didn't try to have an engagement with her, to have a dialogue with her and discuss with her why it's so impactful, why her attendance is so impactful, and why her not attending and actually withdrawing from the competition would have such a massive impact.
So let me put this next question to you. So much was put on her shoulders as a solitary individual. There are 80 countries or 80 representatives of various nations that are participating at Miss Universe in Israel. Surely there should have been a more structured approach and engagement of those 80, so you have 80 potential ambassadors speaking to the cause as opposed to the solitary individual.
Yes, excuse me. So we have this movement called the BDS movement, which is the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanction movement, and it's a global movement. And what the BDS movement has done is that they have been calling, firstly, the BDS movement within particular countries have engaged with their particular participants to withdraw from the competition and to try and engage with them on this specific issue and why their attendance is problematic and why it would be great for them to withdraw. Besides those individual movements within specific countries trying to engage with their participants or the representatives from their country, there is a global BDS movement. So because it encompasses boycotts as well, it's not that there isn't an approach to try and ask people from these different countries to boycott the pageant. So BDS has been working ever since it was announced that the Miss Universe pageant will be taking place in Israel. They have been working against trying to get countries to boycott the pageant. So there is a global movement and there is a global conversation around this. So it's not that just us as the PSA or us as BDS South Africa just targeting Lalela. We're also engaging in a global sort of boycott of Miss Universe. So our approach was firstly to ensure that we don't send a representative from South Africa. But in the case that that doesn't happen, now we're also calling for broadcasters of the Miss Universe event to boycott and not to actually broadcast the pageant itself. So we do have a petition online. So it's not that it's just we're targeting Lalela. It is a broader movement.
Well, it almost seems like the horse has already bolted, if you will, because assumedly these broadcasters have financial obligations to meet. Certainly in broadcasting this event that will be watched by billions of people across the globe. What were those conversations like with the organizers of the Miss Universe contest when they awarded it to Israel? And what was their reaction? Because I'm sure that was your first, or should have been your first point of engagement.
Yes, that was our first point of engagement. And to be completely honest, like you said, there's a lot of financial obligations and a lot of political agendas that underpin this decision. Like we said, the pageant is being used as a normalization campaign. So we're seeing that a lot of propaganda is coming out of Israel that surrounds this pageant. So, if we just look at the Miss South Africa organization itself, and the CEO of the organization, Stephanie Weil, and her ties to the Jewish National Fund, which is an organization that is notorious for buying Palestinian land in order to build Israeli settlements. So there's a lot of hidden political agendas that underpin decisions like these. So we're not surprised that despite the South African government withdrawing support, and despite a lot of the general public asking and requesting Lalela to not go, that she actually is in Israel at the moment. Yeah.
Well, just yesterday we celebrated International Human Rights Day and 25 years of our own constitution. And one of the pillars of the constitution is obviously, amongst all human rights, is the freedom of expression. Is this not a freedom of expression for Lalela and certainly other participants at this event?
Freedom of expression, but at what cost? Our constitution does allow for specific rights to be safeguarded. And that is exactly why Lalela is in Israel at the moment, because constitutionally, you cannot force her to not attend. But like I said, freedom of expression, but at what cost? Because, Lalela claims she's an inspiring human rights or humanitarian lawyer. And it makes you wonder, what rights is she currently standing up or advocating for? The city that she is in has such a violent, turbulent history of ethnic cleansing and displacement of the Palestinian people, where hundreds of human rights violations occurred. So, you can claim to be an advocate for human rights and not take the opportunity to take a firm stance for Palestinian human rights. You can be selective in your stance. I think that's where we need to also understand that it's freedom of expression, but not at the expense of other people, not at the expense of other people's human rights.
Final question, Nora, before we let you go. How does an organization such as yours engage more people globally to fully understand what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people and not leave it until the the 11th hour, so to speak. So you can imagine for somebody like Lalela, who's been waiting the last 5 or 6 years, if not longer, to participate in this event on the global stage, and then at the drop of a hat is expected not to get involved.
You know, our organization, it's the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. So since its inception, what we have been doing is engaging the public and having various campaigns that are centered around awareness, but that are also centered around action. You know, despite the fact that Lalela is in Israel, we do consider our campaign a success because it helped us not just raise awareness around what's going on in Palestine, but we were able to garner a lot of public support, including that of the government. You know, the last time that I was on Newzroom Afrika with Ayanda, we spoke about the role of the government and what they can or should be doing regarding the issue. And we spoke about how there needs to be some decisive action which needs to be taken, and that is what we saw happen. You know, we saw the South African government officially withdrew their support, and that is a massive step. It's a step in the right direction, and that's the kind of work that we do. It's not just us showing up last minute. It's us advocating for Palestinian rights continuously through different campaigns, and being involved in a lot of boycott campaigns as well. So yeah, and I think it's a lot of public awareness and public education as well. So if people are willing to learn and if people are willing to talk about Palestine, we as an organization are there to do that.
Noor Ahmed, I appreciate your time this morning. And she's from the Palestinian Solidarity Alliance. Up next is a recap of the headlines at the half hour. Then, have you ever wished to have your knowledge to the future shared? Well, at the palm of your hands, rather. Well, psalmist Mohomotsi, the psalmist, gives us a hint of what 2022 might look like. Stay with us.